Good morning, Daily Huddle. I am so excited about today's topic, so excited that I'm out of character. I'm not going to tell a joke this morning. I have two quotes from two of my favorite humans, and one is from an author by the name of James Altucher. And the quotes are really around our topic today. And what we're really talking about today with our question, why don't we say what we mean, is honesty and how honesty can be a practice. And here's what James Altucher says about honesty. He says, honesty is the fastest way to prevent a mistake from turning into a failure. That gave me some food for thought. But then somebody we all know says this about honesty, and the man's name is Fred Rogers. He says, honesty is hard. Truth can be painful, but the freedom it can bring is worth the trying. Welcome to the Daily Huddle.
Love that.
Here we are. Good morning, Daily Huddlers. It is Wednesday where we talk about everything communication and relationships, because we know that more effective communication builds better relationships, and better relationships build better families, better communities, and better business. So before we dive into our topic with my wonderful co-host this morning, Kathryn Sabol, I have some questions to get us in the exact place we need to be. And so I'm going to start with Giovanni and tell us, where is that place, Gio? Where are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you, Tara. Let me look. I've been walking around lately and I always find myself here, right where I'm supposed to be.
Thank you so much. It takes intention to be right here and nowhere else. So I thank you. And I'm going to scoot it over to Stan this morning. Good morning, Stan. I love
Good morning,
seeing
Tara.
you. Tell me, Stan, how are you and what are you grateful for this morning?
I am empowered. And I'm grateful for being empowered because the Daily Huddle helps me to be more empowered.
I love that. And Stan is empowered because that's the way he says he is. I loving it.
I am as I say I am.
All right, Tom, tell me this morning, Tom Montgomery, what time is it and who will you hug today?
Well, the time is now. And if we're focused on the time being now, then we can be present. So today I will hug my son. That's who I will hug.
Nice. I'm envious of that. I would love to be hugging my son today, but right now I'm here to give you all a virtual hug and to introduce my co-host, Kathryn Sabol, and she is going to kick it off around our question, why don't we, before we think we do, why don't we always say what we mean? So Kathryn, talk to us this morning.
Yeah, well, it's a good question, right? And I think one of the main reasons is because we're conditioned. We're conditioned to be pleasers in a lot of ways. I know when I was growing up, my grandmother told me, pretty as pretty does, and be always kind and true. But, and although that sounds like it may mean, be, yourself, and, it didn't, it meant keep the peace. It meant, don't disturb too much. Don't say something that might upset someone, and this could have been a different generation, and a very Southern way of being, but it really is what I learned growing up. And so I think that is the main reason why we often don't say what we mean. And Tara, you said something to me early on, and it stuck with me. You said, you can't offend me because I know what my intention is. And I want you to jump into the conversation too, because I want you to talk about, I feel like for me, I have had to unlearn the conditioning that happened to me growing up to try and get back to figure out what is the truth of me, what needs to come out of my mouth, who am I, all of that. Right. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you come from a different place of being even more direct. You seem to just say what you mean. A lot of the time, if not all the time, for better or worse. So I want you to talk to us too. Why don't you come in here and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm delighted that you picked that up for me, but I think it's something that I think it's been also an Achilles heel of mine, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. My mother, like your mother, always, don't tell always put on a pretty smile and, go out and put your best foot forward, and you don't tell your business. But she also was so very devoted to don't cheat, don't lie, don't steal. Like those three things were just like, absolutely, you just had to be honest. So I think as a young girl, I had a difficult time marrying the two. So as I've grown up, I'll tell you kind of an interesting caveat to my particular personality is my first like real job was in sales, like, kind of really moving into a career outside of college. And they make you take this really long test, this personality test that tells if you're a good match for the sales role. And it was a really lengthy test. This was a long time ago, and you had to wait for, I don't know, it was probably close to a week for the results. And the manager came back to me, and they very rarely ever hired females, which they were allowed to say back then. And he said he didn't think it was going to be a good fit. He said, but when I got your test results back, he said, I rarely see a fit this strong for sales. He said, you just are the perfect personality for it. There was one thing, though, that it very much said I needed to work on. It said, and I remember this word for word, it said, sometimes, well, it didn't even say sometimes, it said, you are so devoted to being honest that you can come off as blunt and tactless. And I've never forgotten that. And I think I've always worked on it, but somehow it reminds me that really what we're talking about is why we don't say what we mean and being honest. There's a way that we can make this a practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way that we can be gentle and that we can be cautious and careful about what we express. And I mentioned this to you, but it's probably really kind of a fun example. And it is that this mentality has certainly bled into my children. Many of you know that my son spent over 7 years in prison. And after the 4-year mark in prison, he had really, really worked on himself, his mentality. But there was one thing that he regretted. And when he found out at about 4 years that he was going to stay longer, he was devastated. And after about 2 days, he decided, well, I'm going to continue to do what I promised I would do in prison, which is make this time a gift. And he asked me to send him a book on Spanish. And then it became another book, another book, another book. Long story short, he's fluent in Spanish. And so he's a free man today. And wherever he goes and finds people speaking Spanish, they see his blue eyes and his light hair and his light skin. And they quickly say, where did you learn to speak Spanish? And damn if my son doesn't just say prison. And I'm like, Wilson, you maybe don't want to lead with that until people know you. And he's like, well, that's my truth.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So,
right.
So you're better at navigating and being a little bit more, I think, gentle, but still saying what you mean. So how have you learned that craft? Because clearly the Heaton clan has not yet learned it.
Well, I love it. There's nothing like being called tactless, blunt and tactless. It's like, great. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I have to work, I'll smooth it over until the cows come home and then realize, oh, I've lost my audience. Their eyes are glazed over because they're not connected to me at all because they realize it's a whole bunch of, smoothing over. So that's probably why we're a good blend. So yeah, there are, and when I try and do that and be really blunt and direct, it does come off as tactless because I just don't have that sort of skill. So I think for me, it's connecting to, we talked about what does it give you when you are truthful and honest? And what you said in that quote is perfect. It's freedom.
Yes,
I found myself attracted.
Topics.
Mm-hmm. And I found myself attracted to people and envious of them who could speak their mind. Like I would think of what I wanted to say take it back, work it out, massage it. And then, and that took, what I realized is how much effort and energy. And actually then it stopped having the same impact. It's like in a relationship, you can do that for a little while, and it's a new relationship, and you're saying all the things that you think somebody wants to hear. It could be business, it could be anything, friendship. After a while, you realize, actually, my needs aren't getting met. I'm not saying what I need to. So your question was, how have I, learned to be a little bit more suave about it? It's not that. I've had to unlearn the suave to really connect to the truth. And I think the important thing is, if it's to what you said, you can't offend me because I know my intention. So what I interpreted that to mean is, I'm coming from a good place. I would never intend to hurt you, offend you, say something that would upset you. If I did, tell me, and then we'll work it out. But it just felt like you could live with such freedom to be able to not have to worry about stepping on other people's toes. And so for me, I have to connect always. I have to continue to look at, what do I really want to say? What's the truth? What is the truth in this moment? And often that can get me to a place where I can actually say, oh, this is it. And I'm curious, like, if we asked ourselves that more and more, how would it change how we interact with people in business, in relationships? Even with my children, I often find, Mom, what's going on, or whatever. And it's like, I'm saying all these things and I'm like, actually, I'm exhausted. I am really tired. And so I'm really short, and I'm grumpy, and I'm sorry. That's the truth of it.
Yes. And usually, as I'm listening to you, usually I find that I don't even like to say strategy, but my intentions in communication are very similar when it's personal versus business. Mm-hmm. So, but sometimes there's a cause and a reason to delineate. And I think in this particular topic, it would be good to kind of separate those two out, because oftentimes in business, let's just say I'm talking to my husband versus a client. I think we have this mentality that we want the client or the customer to think that we have all the answers, that we know everything. And that positions us. And I've coached salespeople away from this. When they think they don't know something, or they didn't show up fully prepared, or they did something wrong, they tend to just tell what they will call little white lies to smooth that over, so that they can keep the image to the client that they are credible and capable. But what they're doing, I think, when we do that, is we're also saying to them, we're not human. We're missing an opportunity to connect. And when someone sees that we're human, that builds dramatic amounts of trust. So if I showed up to a presentation, it was, I think, about 3 weeks ago, and I forgot something. And a friend of mine was texting me. It was a virtual. I have one. Do you want me to get on the screen? And I just said, you know what? You're gonna have to excuse me for a minute. I need to show you this, but I have to go get it. And it made things real. And so I think sometimes it's just stopping, taking a breath, and thinking, I have an opportunity to be truthful and honest and build something much more precious than amping up my credibility. So that's how I look at it in the business sense. So before I shift into the personal, which I have a great example just from this past weekend. Tell me what you're experiencing in business conversations. Do you hear people not saying exactly what they mean in an effort to bring that perfection?
All the time. I think it's common. And I love what you said, is that you're missing an opportunity to connect and be real in that moment. The other place that I would look is it is felt. We think we're like, pulling the wool over someone's eyes by doing that. And that, like, oh, they're not going to notice that I'm nervous, uncomfortable, or forgot something. But the truth is, it's felt in the room. Like, you can tell when there's something and you don't quite know what it is. And so we start to make assumptions about what that is. Like, if you're fidgeting around, but you're still talking because you're looking for this thing, like, I'm watching going, something's going on over there, but I don't quite know what it is. And so that's the piece I think we miss. We're actually not fooling anyone. And so when we just say it, then it actually frees everybody up to be like, oh, cool, that's what's happening right now. Now I feel connected in the room, instead of trying to figure out what's going on, whether it's conscious or unconscious or subconscious. So I think that's the other piece, is, to recognize that actually whatever's going on, people know. So to just say it and name what's in the room, it frees everybody up in so many ways. And that's the opportunity to connect right there.
I wonder how, for some folks, though, I feel like it's almost like ingrained, like it's a habit that they just say what they think other people want to hear. And I wonder how we could help people, if that is a habit, to move away from that. Because I almost feel like we're making this too easy. Like, oh, just, say the truth.
Right.
If we've been conditioned all our lives to put that best foot forward and present the person that has it all together at all times, fully credible, has all the answers, I think it would take some intention and practice to move away from that and find the courage. And then also, like Fred Rogers says, find the gifts in it.
Right. Well, I think that's a really good point. It will take time, and I think for me, it's connecting to the other side of it, because that's what had me looking at it. I wanted something different. I didn't want to spend all that energy. I wanted the connection. So I would think a place to start is to say, well, what do you really want? Do you want those deep connections with another human being with ease, without a lot of effort? And if so, here's a place to look, because people want to know you, like the core of who you are. That's the truth. We may say otherwise, but that's what we're really after. The connection that you're talking about is connecting to another human being, like who they truly are. I don't want to know what you think I want to hear. That's not going to get us anywhere, right?
Wasting my time.
I know, I'm bored already just saying it. I want to know who you are. So give it to me straight. And I'm adult enough to handle whatever that truth is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I you're making me think about my studies, and I'm always studying the physiology of communication. And I just recently was reading some of the latest research around serotonin. And you all have heard me talk about serotonin before, but it is that feel-good chemical we get that helps us to stay happy and feel confident and prideful. And much of it is synthesized, interestingly, in the gut. But what scientists have learned recently is that while we may think we don't need that deeper connected relationships and socialization, especially introverts will tend to think they don't need it, we all are physically wired for that. And without serotonin coursing through our bodies, we would all be completely depressed and potentially filled with anxiety. So remember that gift of being honest and letting somebody see the true you. There's physiological, biological science that will elevate our ability to be happy and feel connected and to enjoy the way we navigate life.
Right. And I don't want to skip over what you asked, which are what are some practical ways that we can do this, especially if we've been conditioned a certain way, because I think there's a fear that if I do something different, our brains are wired. If you do something different and step outside of your comfort zone, there's fear there. So one of the ways to do this, just like with anything new, any new skill, is step by step, one step at a time, and to practice. So, start with somebody that you trust, that you're comfortable with, and try on for size. Like in this conversation, what's a little bit more direct truth than I would normally say? It could be, how are you doing? And it's, let me think, it's not fine. It's, how am I doing? I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm super excited today because it's my kid's birthday. It's whatever it is. It's just a little more direct, and practice and see, because that's how we build the skills, is we build the muscle of trying it.
And you know what? I experienced that this morning, and I did, because it was with you. We chatted right before this, and I said, how are you? And you didn't just say, I'm good. You said, I'm okay. And I said, I hear that, and we will be talking later. We didn't have time this morning,
right?
But just that little moment, it just elevated our connection. I mean, I think you and I are a powerful example of this. What have I known you less than 3 years? And I probably feel closer to you than most women that I know. And it's because of intention and honesty.
Yeah. Well, and without knowing it, you've stepped into the personal side of how this can work, which which is the connection. And yeah, I'm itching to get to questions too. And I see Giovanni's got his hands up. So, but just to say, like, it is different in business, and it's the same, the connection piece is still there. Bringing truth into the room, naming what's there does build the connection, which opens up space.
Right.
I'm going to go straight to Gio and see what's brewing in his mind.
Awesome. Thank you. I had a question. I wanted to see how you guys navigate through this question. One of the things that I struggle with personally and professionally is that there is this aspect of learning how to be more tactful, or it seems to me, for me to learn to be tactful while remaining authentic and I don't know what the right word is, real or authentic or honest. And I get in a confusing space, if you will, given that my authentic self is a little bit clumsy in my speaking. I like bad words to animate a point of view, and I like doing that. And then at the same time, it does offend some people, and so I'm not committed to offending, but oh man, some people are just real. See, I want to illustrate with a bad word. They're real. I'm going to say a bad word. They're just like too sensitive. Chill out, right? So often I would just say an inappropriate word to describe how some people are, right? And that's my zone. That's how I want to be. But I don't really want to be offending people. That's not the point. But why do I need to walk on eggshells on some sensitive people who can't hear anything other than the way that they like it? And so now I go into this downward spiral of authenticity is overrated. Nobody cares. Just be you and find your tribe. And anyway, what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I love what you're saying. I mean, the phrase that keeps coming to my mind is know your audience. And if you're in a space where, let's say, I know you've done some conferences, spoken at some conferences, and let's say that's really important and you really want to reach as many people as you can in that conference. And you know that by speaking with profanity or however you say it, or just saying it like it is, you could lose a large part of that group. Like, point to your intention. Are you more committed to reaching as many people as possible while being as authentic as possible? And if that's the case, see if you feel comfortable leaving out the words that could potentially offend with still being authentic. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to say the things that immediately come into your mind. For me, there's a way that I can shift those words to be still say what I mean, but not be as I don't want to say direct because it's still direct, but as whatever you think they are, offensive, let's say, because you called them offensive. Does that land for you at all?
To me, and this is where I struggle, it seems to me that being decent is overrated. Like, it's so inauthentic. Like, it's not overrated at home. Now, that's a strong rule I have. I don't curse at home. But life is so ruthless that, I mean, when shit hits the fan, it hits the fan. And me walking on eggshells so that people don't get offended, it seems to me that I'd rather be out there in the world with the kind of audience that can deal with it than get a bigger crowd to like me. It seems to me, but at the same time, I'm not committed to offend people. So I'd rather not use profanity because I'd rather be with the sensitive people. I am confused.
It sounds like we hear that. It sounds like an internal struggle with you, Gio, because honestly, part of me says, go to your tribe, go to the people who you just speak to, and then you just weed out the ones because they're offended by your profanity, and then they don't come back, and you're reaching that group really directly, and that's them. But then there's this other part of you that says, yeah, but I kind of want to reach the other ones. So it's like, you got to get connected to yourself and say, well, what is my intention in this situation with this audience?
In other words, I need to talk to Sorrel. That's what I need. I need
pretty much.
I need coaching.
Yep, that's pretty much what I said.
That's right. I need I could have even a little bit of the tact that Sorrel has. You know what? I do want to jump to these other questions. They're pouring in, but I just have to say this one thing. I feel you so much, Gio. And all my life, people have said this to me, Tara. And when I'm more careful, I do remember this. When I'm more careful, we probably, in an effort to not offend anybody, we might really miss the opportunity to really delight and wow anyone. So I would err on the side of being awkward. Know your audience. Obviously, profanity, things like that. Do know your audience. But what does Brene Brown say? Every day after her podcast, stay awkward, brave, and kind. So I say, when in doubt, go for it.
I love it. That's why we need Tara in our lives. Joy Sonia.
Good morning. I've really appreciated the conversation today. And this is making me think about a personal experience that I recently had, and I wish Stacy was on here. So right now, he and I and a couple that he knows, I don't know them, he knows, we are about to read a marriage book. And so they text and they said, okay, we just read the first chapter. Are you all ready? And again, like you were saying, relationships, I don't know them. And Stacy forgot to order our books. So I said, well, our books haven't come in yet. Hopefully they'll be coming in soon, because I don't know them. But I wasn't going to say, well, Stacy didn't order the books, because I didn't want to put him on the spot. Mm-hmm. So Stacy chimes in the text and said, well, somebody didn't order the books. And I felt so bad, because I'm like, them thinking that I didn't order the books. And then he comes on and he does say, yeah, it was me. I didn't order the books. But it just, I think that relationship definitely, you have to look at that. I didn't feel comfortable telling them that, mm-hmm. Oh, he didn't order the books, but mm-hmm. he felt comfortable putting himself out there, and I said, okay, as I learned them, we all laughed about it. They laughed about it too, and I'm like, Stacy, I didn't want to throw you under the bus per se, but as I'm learning them, I can be more real, even though the books didn't come in yet. It wasn't a lie. I just didn't tell them everything, thinking, okay, Amazon, if he goes ahead and order the book today, I'll get the book tomorrow, but that relationship, it is so important. And I think you develop that relationship through time with people. And so at first, yeah, you might not be able to say what you want to say, or, just be as direct. But as you, build that relationship and they get to know you more, then, you can just come out and say whatever that you want to say. And, they know who you are. So you can go ahead and move on with that. So I just want to say that relationship is very important, and building that is important.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Realizing the nuances and where you are. Again, it's know your audience, right? How comfortable you feel. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. Sorrel.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you, everyone. I just want to share what I'm learning, like growing like a weed right now. I'm just discovering for myself what is authenticity really. And I think, Kathryn, you said it, you kept mentioning the word intention. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm walking away with, that maybe being authentic is not saying whatever I want to say. Maybe being authentic is checking in with my intention and then saying whatever I must say in that moment to fulfill the intention in that moment now, even if it requires me saying it in a way I don't like. That maybe being authentic is surrendering completely to my intention. The intention.
Yeah, I'm learning. That's
Gio,
awesome.
Are you listening? Sorrel's coaching you right now.
No, not yet. No, he's not coaching me. No.
Not yet.
What I'm hearing is checking with your intention. Well, my intention said use profanity, but it doesn't work necessarily. That's what my intention says. Push, keep pushing, right? Awaken people, right? but that doesn't really work sometimes. So there is some struggle.
Well, and I'm learning something now that maybe my intention isn't what I want to do. Sometimes I confuse that.
Mm-hmm.
My intention may not be what I want to do, but my intention in that moment could be the intention of this very conversation, like what I want to accomplish with the people and with myself and with the environment through this conversation. So yeah, and that wouldn't be, maybe that's not inauthentic to actually forego how I want to say something, to say it in a way that fulfills the intention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. It's outcome, because when I think about an intention for something, for an event, for anything, it's what do I want to happen? Who do I want to be impacted, and how do I want them to be impacted? And so to your point, it's not what do I want to do? It's this is what I'm hoping for those in the room. So let the words come through me that can have that impact. So to your point, Sorrel, it may not be something I'm comfortable even saying or a way in which I'm saying it, but it points towards what I'm hoping for those in the room. Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay, we're a hair over. We're going to go with Tom, and we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Going back to the quote at the beginning, the freedom it can bring, and you talked about freedom for you, yeah, internally and freeing up from the worry and that sort of thing. And you said along the way, I just wanted to say it back to you, so I'm following. It also gives freedom to the other person. You know, it frees them because they have their own version of the worry. And then I think it also frees them to then connect, you know, that much more deeply with you. So then my question to you is, am I saying that, did I follow along, you know, the freedom, the both sides of the freedom?
Yeah. Tara, you go. I was gonna, yeah.
I mean, in my experience, the more honest and open I am with people, and even like what Joyce Sonia said, if you have to, rather than not telling the full truth, I like to give a very sincere apology. You know what? I failed us. I didn't order the book. I'm truly sorry. I respect this time, and move along. And that causes other people to also feel free to show their true selves. So yep, spot on, Tom.
Absolutely.
Thank
I would
you.
say the same thing. It just, you know, because I think we invite people to be by the way that we are being. If I'm being truthful and honest, it invites others to show up the same way. If I'm closed and shut off, people are going to join the same way unless they can override that. So,
which wastes our life minutes.
It wastes our life minutes. We're bored with that. We're bored with that.
Yes, we are, sister.
So I am not sorry for going over. I love this conversation, and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. We are going to close out with our 7 tenets. Love everyone. Love yourself first and foremost. Laugh out loud. Laugh at your jokes. Laugh at Tara's jokes. Laugh at my jokes. Most importantly, create your own jokes. Stress less. Y'all, it's not that important. None of it. It's just not. We're only here for a short time. We are on, one of my favorite people, Michael Singer, says, you are on a planet spinning around in the middle of space, and you think whatever you just thought was important is important. It just isn't. Eat more plants. The planet will love it. You will love it. Your body will love it. Give, give, give. Sleep, Tara. Sleep, sleep. Tara has been up a long time last night. And move your body, everybody. We will see y'all tomorrow, Thursday, on the Daily Huddle. Thank you. Thank you. Say what you mean what you say.
Sure,
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Thanks
Thank
a lot
you
so much. Thank you, Tara.